My name is Katherine Donald. I have the pleasure of serving as the Executive Director for the Coalition for Tobacco-Free Arkansas. We're located in Little Rock, but we have the pleasure of working with wonderful people on the ground here in Pine Bluff. Back in 2004-05, we had such huge delight, a grouping and teaming with a group of people on an initiative for a smoke-free Pine Bluff. We wanted to bring smoke-free air to public places and workplaces. And so we got to work with wonderful people, as I stated, right here on the ground, homegrown folks. We're standing here 16 years later to celebrate the success that we gained back in 2005. Those of you who've been by a math class, you probably are saying, well, that doesn't add up. That adds up to 16 years. But I want you to know that we intentionally postponed the 15-year anniversary last year because of COVID. It seems like all of our lives just paused, and so did we in terms of celebrating the huge success that we gained back in 2005. But here we are today to celebrate the 15th anniversary of smoke-free Pine Bluff. And we can give that a hand. To help us celebrate, I'm going to introduce the speakers, and they're going to come in the order once I leave the podium. Following me will be the speakers in the given order. On the agenda, you see that we have greetings from the Pine Bluff Wellness and Health Equity Coalition. It says Miss Kim Sneed Jones, and all of you probably know her with Stuff in the Bluff. She's a member of the coalition. However, I just received a text message from Kim informing me like, oh, I am so sorry, I'm not going to be there. And you know, life is so real because she's had a COVID scare, exposure scare. So she's trying to be tested right now as we speak. But with any good coalition, you have people who are ready to step in. We have 2 substitutions this morning. Coming with the greeting will be, instead of Kim, we have Miss Tanisha Lewis. And following Tanisha's greetings, on behalf of the Pine Bluff Wellness and Equity Coalition, Health Equity Coalition, we're going to hear from the visionaries behind the smoke-free ordinance. We're going to hear from former Alderman, Mr. Derwood Smith, who was one of the primary sponsors on the piece of legislation that was passed into law. Following him, we have former Alderman, Mr. George Stubbs, who was his sidekick in the matter way back when. And on the agenda, you see that we have following him was former Mayor Carl Reedus Jr. However, I got another text message this morning. Mayor Reedus, matter of fact, while we're standing right here in the place, sent a text message and then called to say, I am so sorry. I thought I was going to be able to get there. He's in orientation, a Zoom orientation for his son, and then they pushed the orientation session back 30 minutes, which is direct conflict with our timing today. So he said, give him my greetings and my regrets, because he was so looking forward to telling you how he enjoyed breaking the tie vote the night that the ordinance passed. So we'll think about him and his family. Then following the 2 aldermen, former aldermen, we have Miss Rosie Pettigrew, who is a former smoker, business owner. Matter of fact, she's the business owner of this establishment. And she's going to come and just talk about the importance of her, from a business owner perspective, the importance of offering a smoke-free experience to both her workers and her patrons. And then after that, we're going to recognize 2 people who played a huge role in our campaign way back in 2005. One of them is the institution, medical facility, Jefferson Regional Medical Center. And speaking on behalf of Jefferson, accepting the award would be Miss Wendy Talbot. And following her would be, we're going to honor and recognize Naomi Somerville, who was the director coordinator of the then coalition called Jefferson County Tobacco-Free Coalition. And that coalition played a huge part in setting the framework, the foundation for the law that we enjoy today. And then I'll come back with some closing remarks, and we will have a proclamation. Here again, I had another call. Someone couldn't make it. This time it's not health, it is not children or family. This time it's actually work. Alderman Bruce Lockett scheduled to give a toast to us, but he's not going to do that. But I have another able person and a coalition member, Mr. Reverend Dr. Johnny Smith with Shiloh Baptist Church is going to come and issue the proclamation and extending a toast to smoke-free Pine Bluff. So at this time, we have coming greeting us on behalf of the mayor's office, Mr. Sales, William Sales, because Shirley Washington called this morning. Can you believe my luck? She called this morning, had a conflicting meeting, but she did send someone in her stead. So at this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Sales to come.
Good morning, everyone. My name is William Fells, and I'm representing the mayor's office. Unfortunately, Mayor Washington could not be here this morning. However, I would like to welcome you all here on her behalf. First of all, it's an honor to celebrate this anniversary with you all today. It represents a visionary moment when Pine Bluff chose to act as pioneers in uncharted waters, when we chose to see the world as it should be rather than as it is. A world where people can go to work and make a living without having to worry about the dangers of secondhand smoke. We applaud the citizens, the leaders, and the advocates who made that ordinance happen. Today, 16 years later, not only has our local workforce changed, but the American consciousness as well. National smoking rates have fallen in the past few years to record lows. The work isn't done. There's still much that we have left to do. However, that just shows you how far we've all come. And that's the result of hard work, education, forward thinking, and tenacity. And it's very, very, very encouraging to know that Pine Bluff can count itself among the leading forces in those efforts. So in closing, on behalf of Mayor Washington, I want to thank you all for having us here. I want to thank you for being here. And most importantly, I want to thank you all for everything that you've done to create a healthier community.
Good morning. My name is Tanisha Lewis, and I'm a member of the Pine Bluff Wellness and Health Equity Coalition here in Pine Bluff. We would like to bring you greetings and welcome you to the anniversary celebration of a smoke-free Pine Bluff. We look forward to continuing the work and keeping Pine Bluff smoke-free. Greetings.
I first would like to thank everybody for attending today. It is very hard to believe that it's been 16 years. It's very hard to believe it's been 16 years, but when you're having fun, time does pass pretty fast. I would like to thank the ones that really worked hard on this, which would be George Stubbs, Janice Roberts, and Wayne Eastley, and for the tiebreaker, Carl Regis. But, you know, I know there's a lot that still needs to be done, and we will work in that direction as much as possible, I think. I think everyone here is concerned. And it was not easy, you know, passing this. It was pretty tough at times. In fact, one of my best friends had a restaurant. He told me, do not come back in my restaurant again. But say a year later, he called me, apologized, and said that, you know, his business had picked up and it was a great thing. But at the time, it just didn't seem that way to him. But that all passed. And there was another one that, and she, you know, was pretty tough on us, but she eventually came around and said, it's good, I don't have to paint the building inside every few months now. So all these things contributed to what happened at the city council. And we was I was happy to have George, because George was we were together on everything, as well as Janice and Wayne. And I was thankful that Carl decided that he would be a tiebreaker, and that sealed the deal. And I do thank y'all, and in the future, I hope we stick with what we got started. Thank you.
Well, good morning to all of you. Thanks, Derwood, for almost getting me put out of this town. Yeah, you know, when I would go places, my wife was like, I don't know if I need to be seen with you. People would stop you in Walmart, everywhere. I need to talk to you. I mean, with vengeance in their voice. I can't believe you did that. I'm like, okay, why not? But I had the privilege on my job that I could see the numbers. I would do randomly check on restaurants to see what their sales were. And actually, I could see that their numbers had gone up because there were a lot of people that wouldn't say, but was glad that we passed that ordinance. Like Derwood said, it wasn't easy. We worked hard, but we saw the need of it. They even had the opportunity to go before the legislature and speak to that group about the no smoking in the restaurants and the workplace. But as a result, you can see now, 16 years later, because of this pandemic and this virus, how smoking has affected a lot of us. And what people are not saying, that even those of us that recovered from this, it affected some of our organs, our lungs and our heart. I went for a heart checkup just this week, and I went to the clinic. It was so many people there for checkups and for problems with their heart. The doctor gave me a clean bill of health, and I don't have to go back to see him for 6 months. But I thank God for what we did then, because we stood up against a lot of people that was not for this. But as Derwood said, we put our shoulders back to back on many occasions. Even from the time that I first got there, he accepted me in, and we would go out together. Thank you, Derwood. I'm still here. They didn't put me out.
And when we speak of anniversaries, 11/23/1983 is very important to me. That's the day before Thanksgiving. I quit smoking. At that time, I worked for AT&T, and they had a smoking cessation program. I joined along with 50 other people. Only 2 quit smoking. You probably wonder why. Let me tell you, every morning I got up, the best thing for me was a cigarette and a cup of coffee. I did that for many years, many years. One of my daughters had this horrible cough, and I took her to the doctor, and he told me, he said, I want you to be quiet. I'm talking to my client. He talked to my daughter, and he asked her about how she coughed, why she coughed, when she coughed, how she felt, and everything. His name is Dr. Ewell. I'm sure he's retired now, but he's in Kansas City, Kansas. Dr. Ewell took his finger. He sat me, he said, now I want you over here in this chair. He took his finger and he pointed at me and he said, you are killing your child. It's one thing to know that you smoke and it's good for you, but when you hear a doctor tell you you're killing your child, it sends a whole different message to your brain. So it just so happens that AT&T had that program, and I joined, and I was the happiest person. Through the years, maybe 10 years or so after, I could taste the tar occasionally. If I had a red bell cold or I would cough. That tar's still there. I mean, it's not there anymore because it's been 38 years. Will be in the day before Thanksgiving this year. But anyway, the doctor told me, he said, when you smoke, your lungs become charred. No matter how many years it's been, when they do an autopsy, they can still tell you were a smoker. So when we opened up RJ's, another anniversary, 5/11, this year, 2021, we celebrated 10 years. It was with joy that we opened up this restaurant, my daughter and I, Nikki, to make sure that this environment is smoke-free. You can go outside and smoke, but there is no smoking in this establishment. And thank you all for hearing my story.
Now we are down, let me unmask. To special recognition. Our first partner in the smoke-free campaign we are going to recognize this morning is Jefferson Regional. And the title of the award is Key Contributor. Presented to Jefferson Regional in recognition of your commitment to public health and a smoke-free Pine Bluff. Presented July 16th, 2021. Accepting this award, I believe, is Miss Wendy Talbot.
Thank you so much. Julie, you have to come up here with me. Come on. You do. So come on up.
Absolutely.
I'm honored to accept this on behalf of Jefferson Regional today, but I have to share this with Julie. Even though she is not technically out of the hospital today, she still reps us everywhere she goes. And she was instrumental in the hospital support of this. Yes. So Julie.
Thank you. And like Derwood and George said, it was not easy. And a lot of our friends were not happy. But we had so much help from the hospital, and 3 of our physicians went to the 3 city council meetings and spoke on behalf of going smoke-free. And I have to give them a shout out. One of them was Dr. Bo Busby, one was Dr. Clyde Campbell, and one was Dr. John Harris. And I think their testimony at the meetings was very compelling, and I think that really affected the council members and the mayor listening to the reality of what secondhand smoke does. So even though they're not here today, I want to praise them because they did a great job and took their time to make this all happen. And anyway, JRMC was happy to be a part of it then and happy to be a part of it now, and thank you all very much.
The next award and recognition is for leadership, and we're calling it the Leadership Award. I see Miss Naomi Somerville coming, and while she's coming, I will just read you what we have to say. Leadership Award in appreciation, Naomi, for your many years of dedicated service and outstanding accomplishments working for a smoke-free Pine Bluff, and I know there were many. Presented to you, now come on, my friend, the doctor, the Reverend, so many things has happened 15, 16 years, Miss Naomi Somerville. Presented July 16th, 2021. Miss Naomi.
Thank you.
And I'm going, you know.
Hi. When Katherine texted me about this, I actually said I wasn't coming. I thought 16 years was a long time and nobody remembered, so my mom talked me into this. So I could change my dialysis appointment, but she said, when you get there, just tell them you caught hell. Which is not a lie. And like Mr. Smith said, I couldn't go to Walmart without being cussed out, called all kind of names. My backyard had fire set in it. I wound up going through a divorce at the same time. It was hell. But I was so determined because my dad died 7 days after he turned 60 because he started smoking when he was 9. And his heart imploded in his chest. 5 kids, 3 of us have asthma. I still wrestle with it today. Never smoked a cigarette, but I live with a smoker. And so there were a lot of people I needed to thank, and I'm glad to see Julie. Because she was right by my side, one of the few adults that was really just there, encouraging and helped the hospital pass their law first, which was a domino. Because when they passed their law, then it was easier. Janice Roberts, I wish she was here, my twin. She recruited Mr. Smith, my cousin George, and Mr. Eastley, and for, I call them the Fantastic Four. And I thought everything was good and very good until that night when they swore in a new altar person who decided they would vote against us. And Mr. Carl had called me that very day and said, I'm a new mayor. If it's a tie, I'm not gonna break it. So I didn't even hear him break the tie because I knew what he told me. And I heard people screaming and hollering and I was crying. And one of the doctors came over from UAMS and hugged me and said, we won. And I said, what? He said, we won. And the place was packed. We had people from Louisiana, TV stations and newspapers. And the deal was, they said that Pine Bluff, first they didn't believe we could do it. They said Pine Bluff was economically disadvantaged, minority run, and we wouldn't make it happen. But I'm telling you, 4 years of education, Billboard, CDC, I love them. They paid for a lot of my billboards and newspaper ads. The Coalition for Tobacco-Free Americans, non-smokers, paid for a lot because the state didn't really believe we could get it done. So they didn't really help us that much. But all in all, here we are. And I just need to thank a whole bunch of American Cancer, American Lung, American Heart, Coalition for Tobacco-Free Arkansas, JRMC, more importantly, my youth coalition, who won national awards. Some of them are doctors in town right now, and none of them ever smoked. Hallelujah. So I had all these people, and then Dr. Jeffrey Wingard, who took me on his arms and taught me, because I asked so many questions when I met him at ULR, and he taught me about the tobacco industry. And then Mr. Alan Landers, I don't know if y'all remember him. He died from lung cancer. Y'all know him as the Winston man. He came to Pine Bluff 4 or 5 times. So I'm just excited that we were one of the most progressive cities. We made national news as a progressive city in this country. Unfortunately, we didn't get the chance to make it again. And I'm really encouraging you. There are 1,000 smoke-free casinos in America. 1,000. The latest one is MGM in Las Vegas. And they went smoke-free September during the pandemic. It is possible that we could be progressive again and care about the very lives of the workers as well as the patrons of this city. Pine Bluff should never be on the tail end of anything else again. We proved that we could do what's right. And I see they put on the program something I coined a lot during that time was smoking is a privilege. And you can have your privilege, but breathing is my right.
Thank you so much, Naomi. You know, we all know the effort, the work that you invested, and hopefully you feel and see the return on your investment. As we are about to conclude with this part of the press conference and move on to our proclamation, I want you to know Naomi gave greetings to and thanks to American Cancer, Heart, Lung, and all the people who played a role. I know most of us get digital newspapers these days, but I want you to know that Coalition for Tobacco-Free Arkansas did place a thank you ad recognizing this day in the Pine Bluff commercial. So if you open up your paper or your digital paper, and if you have the paper copy, you should find an ad recognizing Pine Bluff, the 15th anniversary, in the newspaper today. And every single partner that was with us, it's represented in the ad letting you know that we all stand together in applauding Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and the courage that and the leadership that was shown here over 15 years ago. So at this time, we are going to invite to the podium the Reverend Johnny Smith, who's going to come with our proclamation. Reverend Smith.
I understood this to be a kind of toast, so being a pastor, I'm not ready. I didn't pass the orientation on how to do a toast. And my friend, Brother Stubbs, did not call me to tell me how to get it done. But I'm grateful, and what I just want to share with you, first of all, the accolade for our leadership. And one thing I learned about leadership is that leadership has the connotation of guardian. And guardians are responsible for protecting others even from their own vulnerability, their curiosity that makes them vulnerable. And so to the leaders, Pine Bluff, Mr. Derwood Smith, Mr. George Stubbs, Ms. Naomi Somerville, Janice Roberts, call readers, that decision was a groundbreaking decision for our region, for our city, and for our people. We're grateful for the initial effort, for the impact that it has. And today, we remember in 2005 that there were 45 million people who were smokers daily. And that as we talk about our children, there were about 4,700 children who tried smoking on a daily basis. And of those, 1,100, about 1,140 of those young people became daily smokers. And Pine Bluff, with that decision, became and was considered to be one of the thriving cities because of that decision in America, and to be the first city, predominantly black populated city, to have made that kind of effort, that kind of decision for a smoke-free society. And so I want to thank each of you. And today here we remember the impact, not just the initiation, but the impact of it. And today we'll continue to enhance, to continue to elevate and extend our efforts for a better smoke-free society and community. And in that we understood that there are 70% of young people who wish they had never started smoking. And we can increase it, not only increase it, but we can also prevent a large number of individuals from tobacco use. Okay? Thank you so much, and toast to our leadership and to our coalition director and the Pine Bluff Health Coalition as well.
We have refreshments, we have an anniversary cake, and you all have to take some with you. You have to have a slice here and whatever, but don't leave this cake with us. And we even have some small bites on the table, and we're going to open the lids and we can play a little catch up before we all depart and go back to our various places of business or homes. Thank you again for being here. I appreciate you.